The mood tracker is just where we take our thermometer and boop, safely into the fan base, and then we pull it out, and what does the thermometer say? Well, it doesn't give us a temperature reading, it gives us a mood reading. This is not the fringe 5% on either side that think you're going undefeated or you're going winless. We want to know what the normal, the everyday Florida fan is thinking right now. Because it hasn't been the most fun last several months. You had the Jaden Rashada thing, and this has been seen nationally, by the way. A lot of people nationally, when they mention Florida football, Billy Napier right now, they're thinking, oh, that's that school that lost out on Rashada. Oh, they've had back-to-back losing seasons. First time since 78 and 79? Are you kidding me? That's the last time Florida had back-to-back losing seasons, and they've had a bunch of coaches leave. So this is a synopsis of what the nation thinks about Florida. What is the mood inside the Florida fan base? No one knows how to get inside the heads of Florida fans more than me. And I say that both sarcastically and realistically, because we have such a love-hate relationship with the Florida fan base. By that I mean some of them think we hate them for no reason, and we actually love them for many reasons, and that's how the love-hate relationship works. Armed and ready is how I describe the mood of the Florida fan base right now. You see, they love Florida. They know, they have a keen sense of awareness when outsiders are trying to come after them, especially when some outsiders, let's say in the regional and national media, not even to mention other fan bases, are using some tough times to disproportionately paint a negative light over the program. The Rashada stuff happened. Losing coaches, although I would argue they didn't lose them. I mean, going to the NFL is not losing anyone, but that's happened. Them not recruiting quite as well as people have wanted. Yeah, that's happened. It's also not dire straits down there. And the back-to-back losing seasons thing is not something Billy Napier brought with him necessarily. It's a lot of what he inherited. So anyway, you know my strategy is normally to err on the side of benefit of the doubt in the spring. The fan base doesn't have to be that way, though. What I mean when I say the Florida mood is armed and dangerous is these people are ready to fight for Billy Napier. These people are ready to fully buy in. These folks are ready to go to war for him. They just have to be given a reason to believe. One of the great Rod Stewart songs of all time. And I highly recommend the unplugged version. You give them a reason to believe, and that's all they'll need. Just need the spark. Just need the spark. Thought we had it last year when they beat Utah, and then the Kentucky game happened the next week, and Anthony Richardson had no clue where the ball was even going, and then they started slipping away. Well, what do they need this year? What do they need? What is that reason to believe? Well, I'll tell you, the first one would be, sure would help if Graham Mertz ended up fulfilling on some of the early whispers. And there are never negative whispers in the spring, so I know I've had a lot of you hit me up. Hey, what do you think about Graham Mertz now? Well, what I think he's gone through a few practices down there in shorts, and he's looked like most quarterbacks do in shorts. Let's give it some time. I have healthy suspicion that Graham Mertz is going to light the SEC on fire, but I'm the same person who believed in him at Wisconsin 2 years ago, so who knows? Maybe he'll round into form down there. That would help. That's the first thing. The second thing is the replacements that Billy Napier has had to bring in. You know, the Austin Armstrongs of the world, for example, on defense. They have to pay off. He has to hit on his coaching additions. Now, you can either look at the defensive losses one of two ways. You can either say, they lost their defensive coordinator. Or you can say, ooh, they were 102nd in yards per game allowed last year. We need change defensively. I would probably, especially if I were a Florida fan, choose to lean towards the latter mentality. But really, here's what it comes down to. Okay, we're talking about individualized aspects of the program. What it really comes down to is the aggregate of the gains that you have in the year 1 to year 2 transition under a quality coach have to be enough to overcome the individual losses. They have to be enough to overcome the individual negatives. You're going to have leaks, certainly. But if you're bailing water faster than the water's coming in, that's all you need. You're not going to be a finished product in year 2. And what I respect about Napier, and I've listened to him talk a lot down there, is he's no different. His mentality's no different than the guy in Athens, than the guy in Tuscaloosa. He doesn't have quite the experience level of some of those guys, but his mentality's no different. He's got a system, got a process he believes in, doesn't particularly care what outsiders think. and he's going to stick to it. We have seen Mike Norvell do that recently at Florida State, and it is just now starting to pay off. Had Mike Norvell cared what people said about him the first 2 years, he never would have seen it through to year 3. If the administration cared what other folks were saying, they wouldn't have allowed Mike Norvell to make it through to year 3. Now, I know my friends down in Gainesville don't necessarily want the Tallahassee to Gainesville corollary here, but broad strokes purposes, what I mean is you got to give a guy time. You can't tell me how disastrous the end of the last regime was, but then say, well, if the next guy didn't win in year 1, we're screwed. No, you're not. Norvell wasn't. I happen to think Sark in Texas will make a jump this year, and we'll find ourselves talking about him similarly. Sark wasn't. You just needed 3 years. Sometimes even this day and age, you need 3 years. Lincoln Riley didn't need 3 years. Each situation is different. Apples to bowling balls. Maybe he needs 2 years. Maybe he needs 3 years. Kirby Smart almost lost to Nicholls State his first year, and that was at Georgia. That was a much more pristine situation than any of the guys I just mentioned inherited. So let's just give it a little time. But the Florida Mood, armed and ready. You give them just an inkling of a reason to believe, and they'll be the Florida fans that we all know and love. Guys, thanks for watching Late Kick. Make sure to leave a comment. I love interacting with you. But most of all, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. That's how we keep all of this free.